Because as far as I remember, the last match, not this last one, but the last one before this one, really the goals were many. Exactly. Yeah, he can say that, But this time around, I think we held our ground very, very well. But the second round, I think people were getting tired. And also, I'm going to throw a bunch of excuses why we lost. The grounds were not very favorable. They have a lot of rocks and stones in them. You have to be really used to it and ready to roll and tumble and bleed a little bit to be able to play. But they played awesome. They played a good game, and nobody got hurt like in a bad way. So we always thank God for that. And Pastor Jonah, thank you so much for organizing that game. It was really nice. Now, Elder Jackson, your height, you can't tell us you can't play basket. Or otherwise, we're going to just force you. Because we need your height. We need your height right there. And if you can't, always come at my house at around 7 p.m. and we can give you some pointers. And also we had another basketball game, and Pastor Jonah lost. He always loses, but my team is always good. But we always have a good time. So please open up our Bibles to 2 Samuel chapter 3. Then my Bible app is not agreeing with me right now. Hey Laura, let me come over there because I just need a little bit of a signal. That goes with technology. Technology. All right, chapter 3 of 2 Samuel. And I'm going to read the first 5 verses. And reads, please, you can read with me. Now there was a long war between the house of Saul and the house of David. But David grew stronger and stronger, and the house of Saul grew weaker and weaker. Verses 2. Sons were born to David in Hebron. His firstborn was Amnon by Ahinoam the Jezreelitess. His second, Chileab by Abigail the widow of Nabal the Carmelite. The third, Absalom the son of Maacah, the daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur. The fourth, the son All right. So, as here we can see that there was a long war between 2 families. The family of Saul, the ones that are still clinging to power, and also the house of David that also wants to assume responsibility or want to actually take on the reins of the nation. So we have the old guard and the new guard. The old guard says we're not going anywhere, and the new guard says also we want our place in the nation. The country was divided. One group and the larger group follows the house of the house of Saul, and then a little bitty crowd also was following David. And because of that, people are torn in between who to follow. Should they follow David or should they follow Saul? The house of Saul has a problem. And the problem is they are not willing to let go. They have failed to cope up with the new. The new normal is David should be the king. But they are not ready to let that happen. And for the past 2 weeks, we've been learning about letting go. And we all have things to let go of in one way or another. For the house of Saul, they had to let go of them thinking they are still in charge. But I understand that, you may be like, but Pastor, you've been teaching about letting go, but how can I let go? What are the signs that shows that I should let go? Because some people don't know when they should let go, because some of us don't know how to read the signposts. There are always red flags along the way. There are always signposts that are posted along the route. And those signposts are showing, hey, you need to let go. But sometimes we ignore the signposts, or sometimes we ignore the red flags. And you think it was just a mistake, or you think it was just a coincidence. Or you're truly madly in love that you actually blind, as they say that love is blind, that you ignore all these other signs that are always popping up in your face. That you are blinded by your passion for that something that you have failed to let go. And there's some issue here with the house of Saul. There were signs all over, but because they were so passionate about being in power, they were not seeing all these signs that were flashing before them. Now today we're going to look at the signs that shows that we should let go. And here, verses 1, it says, now there was a long war between the house of Saul and the house of David. Point number 1, or sign number 1, there will always be conflict in your life. So number 1 sign that maybe you should let go. If you are always pulling ropes to obtain something. My pastor, Chuck Smith, I've never met him in my whole life. He died before I met him. But he used to say this word. He used to say that anything that you struggle to obtain, you also have to struggle to maintain. Now, the house of Saul is struggling actually to obtain this power, this seat of power. They want to be in church, but you know what? They also have to be struggling to maintain that. And if you are going through something, and if you have a situation going on in your life, but you are actually struggling to maintain it, maybe it's a sign that you should let go. We've been talking about so many things like business. You have this business, but the business actually, you're already struggling with that business. I'm not saying you shouldn't be a fighter. I'm not saying you should be a quitter. No, I'm not actually encouraging quitters here. But I'm just pointing out signs sometimes that shows that, you know what, this is something that you have going on. Maybe you should let it go. You should let it die. And here we are, the house of Saul. They are actually, look, sometimes you can struggle, okay, in a relationship, in a marriage, in a business. But it cannot be a long struggle. And here it says they had a long war. It means that they were always trying to obtain something forcefully, and they had to actually get it by force. If you are in a relationship and you are struggling to obtain it, to contain it, means there's something wrong with that relationship. And you need to think about how you can make it enjoyable. Or you are one person who's always putting in too much and the other part doesn't put in a lot. That was sign number one. You know, many years ago, I was in the Bible school. And I used to stay somewhere along Kampala Street and Benchuanuka Street. And we had a workshop for tearing like clothes. And me and Paul used to sleep in it. And this guy is used to living with a bunch of clothes to work on throughout the night. And I could spend my whole night working. Because I wanted to sustain myself. During daytime, I'm in the Bible school. In the night, I am trying to tailor, design clothes. Until one night, reading my Bible in the book of Proverbs, I think it's either Proverb or Psalms. Actually, I think it's Psalms, where it says that unless God builds the city, the builders all build in vain. And it says, unless actually God watches over the city, all the watchers also watch in vain. But you know the verse that comes next to it? It says, why do you stay awake all night? And then he says, God gives rest to those whom he loves. And then that says, I quit. I put all the down and say, I'm going to sleep. I'm going to bed. I'm not working anymore in the night. Because God loves me. Why am I always spending my nights awake working? And that was it. And I said, God, I'm going to trust you for my life. You see, God, you are God's beloved. Why are you struggling to be obtaining something? Let God work for you. Because God said, I want to work for you. I'm here to work for you. And you know what? Once I let go of that, we were in a Bible school. There is a class called Koinonia. Koinonia simply means fellowship. So sharing what was going on in our lives, I told them, guys, I don't know why, but I feel like God is my servant. It's like, what do you mean? I was like, you know what? Now everything I need, I just see him bringing to me. I don't know, but he's always working for me. All things are working for my good. That's how the song goes. Because he's working for you. He wants to work for you. And then he says that, but look at it. That first verse, he says, but anytime, any moment, when you read the Bible and you come across that word that has only 3 letters, which is B-U-T, which you can pronounce as but, it means forget about the first thing that you have just read, because things have changed. Now here it says there was a long war between the house of Saul and the house of David. But then the next question you have to ask yourself is, but what? What next? Now he's saying, but David grew stronger and stronger. So when you compare these two people who are struggling, who are fighting to obtain a throne, you see that actually there is one who's actually what? Gaining more ground. That is the second point, the second sign. Second sign that you should let go is actually whatever you are doing, actually it just does not lift off the ground. Whatever you're doing, it just feels like, you know what? It becomes stale. It becomes like, you know, you don't know what you're doing. You're putting in too much, but you're getting out too little. the house of Saul, they were putting in a lot. But the more they were putting in, the less they were getting out. And it was so obvious that they were actually getting weaker and weaker. There was no development. Okay, you could say, if you've not understood that second point, let me use a different word. Non-development. You are doing something and it's not developing, and you've done it for a long time. That's another sign that, you know what, I should let go of this thing, because you see what, it is not yielding fruits. And here we are, they actually say they are weak. But then the house of David is growing stronger and stronger. And then it says that the house of Saul grew weaker and weaker and weaker. This reminds me of Pharaoh of Egypt. God is saying, let my people go. You see, it is not the house of Saul that is struggling with letting go. Even Pharaoh struggled to let go. And God always asking, let my people go. Meaning that he was holding on to something that wasn't his. Okay, it was his for a moment, but now God was saying, I want you to let it go. But Pharaoh was like, no, I cannot let it go. But the more Pharaoh and Egypt kept on holding onto what God had told them to let go, the more they got weaker and weaker and weaker. You see, their economy began to crumble. And do you know, the economy of Egypt is solely based on what? On the river Nile. And God began striking Nile, and then it got like blood all over it. All the fish died, and they could not even water the plants. You see, now God, when he says let go of something, he means it. And if you do not let it go, he's going to actually show you signs. Some people call them plagues, but you can call them signs. God showed Pharaoh 9 signs as to why he should let go. And all these signs that were God kept actually putting into Pharaoh's sight, Pharaoh ignored 8 of them. 8 of them he kept ignoring until that last one that hit hard, hit differently, because it hit the young Pharaoh who died. And Pharaoh was like, okay, fine, let him go. But even after he said let him go, he's like, no way, I cannot let him go. He said, guys, get on your horses, get on your chariots, infantry march, go bring them back, because I cannot stand them gone. And then he tried to come and bring them back. You see? And we're going to see, even in our text, that failure to let go actually can cost a life or lives. For Pharaoh, he lost a ton of soldiers. When you fail to let go, you can actually endanger so many people around you. Maybe family members, wife, husband, maybe your boss, workmates, school, community, a country. Verses 2. Verses 2 says, sons were born to David in Hebron. His firstborn was Amnon by Ahinoam, the Jezreelitess. His second Chileab by Abigail, the widow of Nabal the Carmelite. The third Absalom, the son of Maacah, the daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur. The fourth Adonijah, the son of Haggith. The fifth Shephatiah, the son of Abital. The sixth Ithrim by David's wife Eglah, these were born to David in Hebron. As far as we are talking right now, our young king has gotten himself 6 wives. Now, when you read verses 2 to verses 6, you are only seeing a polygamous what? King. A king who loves women so much. A king who keeps on getting a new wife every time he sees one. And you are seeing a problem right here with the king. But give me a moment to illuminate you. If you're going to understand the Bible, you need to read it using the lens of the ancients. Don't read it using your modern day mind, because if you use your modern day mind, you're always gonna miss the point. You need to think as those ancient people. Here, and actually, look, this is 1. What does it say? It says the house of Saul grew weaker and weaker, and the house of David, they said, grew what? Stronger and stronger. Now, this is the point here, and it's gonna really blow your mind up. In the ancient days, the sign of someone who is strong and prosperous was having many women. Right? And many sons. It means the family is growing. It means you are actually a big man. Because you see, back in the days, not every man could afford more than one woman. So, if a man could afford more than one woman, it meant that that man was actually prosperous, a strong man. The reason why, now, you'll be like, but David, what's wrong with you? David is trying to prove a point here. David, the more he gets more women, is communicating to the rest of the country like, look, I'm being blessed. It was a sign of a blessing that God has prospered me. And that's why they are only actually talking about sons. Yet we know he had also what? Daughters. Why are they talking about sons? Because you see, a man is honored by how many sons he gets. These are the men who are going to carry on with the family line. But then, they're not telling you that Saul had in the line also that there were children. What? Because there were not children being born anymore. Why? 3 of Saul's sons died in one day. He left the man of Shem around. That is Ishbosheth. And I don't know what he's doing, but perhaps he's not even having babies. And he's 40 years. David at this moment is clocking 40 also. Now the other guy is there, but the house of Saul is not growing. They are not growing. The family is actually dying out. That's why they are saying they are growing weaker and weaker. Now, that's why the Muslims, they are they follow almost exact what the Torah says. They have so much into the Torah. They don't know about the New Testament where there's Jesus and the grace. They are so much into the Old Testament, the Torah, mainly the Torah. And even there, when you are Muslim, they can tell you, if you can afford, if God has prospered you, you can have 4 hakis. They call them haki. What is a haki? A haki is an extra woman you get. That's your haki. And in Islam, whenever you are a man, another Muslim man gets a new woman, in there, according to the Quran, that Muslim man is considered to be a prosperous man. That's why it says, if God has blessed you and you have more, you can also get another wife. Now, the New Testament changes. The New Testament says, 1 man, 1 wife. And here God is not actually coming out and saying, David, what are you doing? He's not condemning David here. He does not say the word. And David has been getting many women one after another, but God is silent. You see, you can look, let's ask, why? What are some of the reasons why David kept getting many women? Let's look at the first one. The first one was Ahinoam. We know this is after who? This is Saul's daughter called Michal. After he was in the struggle out there in the wilderness, he got one. The second one he got was this lady, Ahinoam. But then here he comes and meets Abigail, smart woman, beautiful woman. And then when Nabal dies, he takes her. It's like, she's too smart. I need her in my life. And she's too beautiful too. Now, they tell you that, you know what? He also had this woman called who? Maacah. She is the daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur. Now, the third marriage was a political marriage. And men in power, back in the days, the kings used to do those kind of marriages. You go and marry from another kingdom, and they give you their princess, and you marry her as a sign that, you know what, now we are one family. You could call it alliance. This was a marriage of alliance. These are political moves. I think from the third one, the women that David is marrying, they are more political than actually love. And, you know, the thing that David thought was making it powerful, it was going to make him weak. The thing that showed that David was prospering, it was going to become a curse in his family. And look at all these sons that they mentioned for David. Do you realize they all die? And they actually turn out to want to kill David also. Now God does not come out and say, David, you did something wrong to go ahead and have so many women, but the consequences are going to be there. I don't want to actually to spoil the movie, but spoiler alert is here. Amnon, bad juju, bad boy, firstborn, bad behaviors. He had unhealthy cravings. And then this guy who Chileab, we don't know so much about him except here. Some scholars think maybe he died younger. That's why you don't see him in the later life of David. And perhaps this is the only son that Abigail had to give who? David. Abigail was a good woman for sure. And then Absalom. You know Absalom? Very handsome. He grew his hair so big, he was admired by all the country. He becomes David's chief nemesis. This guy Maacah also, we don't hear him later, because this is the only time that I think they mention him. Then Adonijah, he was the surviving son of David. And him and what? Solomon, they had to fight for the throne. But here's the thing. Just open up your Bibles to Deuteronomy 17. And I want to show you that this was a transgression for David. What is a transgression? A transgression is something that you do even when you know it is wrong, but you say, I like to do it because it profits me, because I like it, so on and so forth. Let's read from verses 14. It says, when you come to the land which the Lord your God is giving you, and possess it, and dwell in it, and say, I will set a king over me, like all the nations that are around me. You shall surely set a king over you, whom the Lord your God chooses. One from among your brethren you shall set as king over you. You may not set a foreigner over you, who is not your brother. 16. But, now these were the limitations of a king. It says, but he shall not multiply horses for himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt to multiply horses, for the Lord has said to you, you shall not return that way again. It was not like returning to Egypt like literally, but trying to copy the formations of Egypt, trying to copy the governance of Egypt. God was like, I don't want you to learn the Pharaohs rule the people. I'm going to set up a new rule for you, okay? Don't try to act like the Pharaohs of Egypt. This was supposed to be a limitation of a king. He could do so many things, but God was limiting them to not do everything they thought they would do. Things that would make them look powerful. Why? Because God was saying, I'm to be your power, not the chariots. And David understood that very well. He says, others trust in their chariots, but I trust in the living God. He understood that point very well. But listen up. He goes on to say, neither shall he multiply wives for himself, lest his heart turn away, nor shall he greatly multiply silver and gold for himself. So God was setting limitations for this king, saying, first of all, don't get a big army. Don't get this modern technology for fighting and stuff like that. I want you to trust in me. And then he says, don't multiply women. Why? Because they would actually say, they would turn your heart away from me. And the more you get these women, they'll always be pulling you. Because every woman has an interest. And every woman's interest is to be the most beloved. Growing up, I lived in different places. And I saw things that actually were like disgusting. Because when a woman is insecure, you don't know the limits she can go to. I saw a woman actually making, I'm not going to even call him husband because he wasn't husband, but they were living together and they were in love. But this woman, she totally fed this guy things. And I'm like, gosh, I would not even say them out loud. But they were despicable, bad things. And I pitied that man. I felt bad for that man for the things he was eating every day. And this was a daily thing. And she was like, I want him to be for myself, because she knew that this guy had multiple women out there. She was fighting for her spot. And women who do not have Christ, and those men out there who have women without Christ, I'm telling you, those men are walking on a very dangerous path. They come home and they don't know what they've eaten in their food. That is why I'm saying, you young men who are seated here, do not go for unbelieving women. I say that and I continue to say it again. Don't. Because the trouble is many. I am saying that same thing to you, women who are here, who are not married yet. Do not go for unbelieving men, because the kind of trouble they're going to put you into, you cannot fathom. They can make you do things you never thought you would ever do in life. That's why God says, what can light do with darkness in mixing? No, one makes the other flee. Light, when it comes, it makes darkness flee. But then it's like, how can you, a believing woman, say, I want to marry this guy who's not a believer? You're mixing your light with darkness, and God says light has no place with darkness. It's not me, Pastor, and say people are like, but Pastor, you're always too hard on our situation. You don't know what we're going through, because you say these things because for you're already married. I know I'm married. Yes, it's true. But you tell you what? The woman I married, she's a believer. And I found her a believer. Oh, Pastor, he told me that he will change, that he will get saved the moment we are together. Liar. Do you know that the number one women that get taken away from church are taken away by Muslim men? When you go around, you're going to see that Muslim men have so many believing what? Women, wives. I don't know if wives or not, but you know what? In Islam, they allow a Muslim man to go marry in any religion, but they do not allow a Muslim woman to go marry in other religions. Why? Because they want to contain their thing. But also they want to be poaching around other religions and take away. And then you go, you with this Muslim guy, and he tells you, you're not going to pray in this house in the name of Allah. You're like, what did I do? You marry this guy, he believes in other things, he has some parts in the corner, and then you're coming and you're saying you're praying, and he's saying, you know what, you're making my things grow weak, I'm not going to let you do that, this is how my business runs. And David was setting a very bad precedence for his sons. This that David is doing, it's going to end up being a generational curse. That it's going to go from him to his sons and to his successor, Solomon. You see, David is about to get a seventh one. Which is, he already had her, but it's going to call her to come back. But then, Solomon, he gets to have actually 7,000. 7,000 of them. All his women. He's like, I'm a powerful king. Don't you understand? This is a sign of power. And Solomon is one of the greatest, the most powerful kings in that era. And he's like exerting his dominance and power by the many women he had. And all these kings were like, that is the man. We call them Big Kahuna. And that is going to cause, in years from now, it's going to cause a serious division in the nation, where God is going to tell the house of David that, you know what? you're not going to lead my nation anymore. Not all of it, at least. I'm going to split it up. I'm going to leave you only with Judah again, just like your father started with Judah. I'm going to reduce your power. Because what? These women stole Solomon's heart away. The Bible says that he began to worship other gods. And then when you have so many women from different backgrounds, from different religion, and you have children with them, they're going to end up teaching these children their own ways. You have nothing to it. It says, verses 18, Deuteronomy, it says, also it shall be, when he sits on the throne of his kingdom, that he shall write for himself a copy of the law in a book, from the one before the priests, the Levites. So here is the thing. God was saying, if a king comes on the throne, one of the first assignments that he had to do was to go ahead and get the Bible and begin to handwrite it. All of it. Why? Because you see, something you've written sticks here. And God wanted them to actually have that law in their heads, in their minds. That's why he says you need to read it. So that's why I'm telling you that David knew exactly what he was doing. But he said, you know what? I need to send a message out there. I need to make alliances here. I need to show people that, hey, I am prospering. Even when he knew that God is not what he wanted him to do. Let's come back to 2 Samuel. Verse 6. It says, now it was so, while there was war between the house of Saul and the house of David, that Abner was strengthening his hold on the house of Saul. And Saul had a concubine, whose name was Rizpah, the daughter of Ahiah. So Ishbosheth said to Abner, why have you gone into my father's concubine? Then Abner became very angry at the words of Ishbosheth and said, am I a dog's head that belongs to Judah? Today I shall the house of Saul your father to his brothers and to his friends, and have not delivered you into the hand of David, and you charge me to deal with a fault concerning this woman? May God do so to Abner, and more also, if I do not do for David as the Lord had sworn to him, to transfer the kingdom from the house of Saul and set up a throne of David over Israel and over Judah, from Dan to Beersheba. And he could not answer Abner another word, because he feared him. Then Abner sent messengers on his behalf to David, saying, whose is the land? Saying also, make your covenant with me, and indeed, my hand shall be with you to bring all Israel to you. And David, good, I will make a covenant with you, but one require of you, you shall not see my face unless you first bring Michal, Saul's daughter, when you come to see my face. So David sent messengers to Ishbosheth, Saul's son, saying, give me my wife Michal, whom I betrothed to myself for 100 foreskins of the Philistines. And Ishbosheth sent and took her from her husband, from Paltiel, the son of Laish. Then her husband went along with her to Bahurim, weeping behind her. So Abner said to him, go, return. And he returned. Now Abner had communicated with elders of Israel, saying, in time past you were seeking for David to be king over you. Now then do it. For the Lord has spoken of David, saying, by the hand of my servant David, I will save my people Israel from the hand of the Philistines and the hand of all their enemies. And Abner also spoke in the hearing of Benjamin. Then Abner also went to speak in the hearing of David in Hebron, all that seemed good to Israel and the whole house of Benjamin. And so Abner and 20 men with him came to David at Hebron, and David made a feast for Abner and the men who were with him. Then Abner said to David, I will arise and go and gather all Israel to my lord the king, that they may make a covenant with you, and that you may reign over all that your heart desires. So David sent Abner away and went in peace. Now, verses 11 to 21, we see a shift. Now, it's going to hit Abner that, you know what, it's time to let go. I've been holding on to this thing for far too long and it's going nowhere. I've been dragging it for so long and it's not gonna go anywhere, because he's realizing the weakness in his camp. It's like, you know what, I'm tired of holding this thing. But here's the thing, it opens up in verses 6 says, now it was so, while there was war between the house of Saul and the house of David, that Abner was strengthening his hold on the house of Saul. Abner, actually, he was more of the king. He was running the show. And because he had picked a guy who was inexperienced, this guy didn't know how to lead. And it had to come back to him to lead these old people that were so many. But then the new king was not happy that actually Abner was very strong and was strengthening himself every day. Maybe that's what Abner wanted from the get-go, to get a weak king so that he can be the one to lead this whole thing. But here, in verses 7, it says, and Saul had a concubine whose name was Rizpah, the daughter of Ahiah. So King Ishbosheth said to Abner, why have you gone into my father's concubine? We have an accusation here. Serious accusation. You could call it a scandal. The king, the young king, is accusing the CDF, the army commander, for going into his father's concubine. Saul also had concubines. So it was the ways of the king, at least a thing, to get so many women. And we didn't know about her until now. I don't know how this guy Ishbosheth knew about it, but he's confronting who? Abner. And Abner is not going to like this confrontation at all. He's going to be mad about it. And you'd be like, but Pastor, what is a concubine? A concubine, back in the days, were these women that a man would get officially to be their mistresses. And they could go and be with them. And nobody would say, oh, this guy is committing sexual immorality, because it is official. But they have one main woman who's their wife. So Saul had one of those, and she's called Rizpah. Now, I don't know who told Ishbosheth that Abner was having affairs with her. Now, he goes and says, what is this thing that you're doing? Why is Abner even concerned about this concubine? Well, later on we're going to see that this guy called Ahithophel, David's closest friend, when he falls out with David, you know what? David is going to commit an atrocity in the future. And Ahithophel is going to be related to Bathsheba, the girl David is going to get in later times. And he's not going to appreciate David doing that thing. And he's going to turn on David, and he's going to go on the side of Absalom. And he's going to tell him, Absalom, if you want to consolidate power and you take over David, you have to go into his concubines in broad daylight, that the whole nation will see that all David's wives are now yours. And they will know that David is weak. He cannot lead the nation anymore. And that's the same thing here. House of Saul is weak, and then you see one king is accusing his commander, the kingmaker, for going into his father's concubines. So basically what he's saying, why are you trying to make yourself a king? And that's going to upset Abner so much. Here, when you go and read 1 Timothy chapter 5, I think verse 7, it says, never accuse an elder unless at the witness of how many people? 3. Here we don't see any witnesses that come to say, oh, we saw it. But he comes and abruptly accuses an old man about this thing, and the guy is not going to take it lightly. He's going to be upset about it. And he's like, you know what? Am I a dog's head in in David's camp? Basically he's saying, am I risking all this just for you to come and just disrespect me? It's like, I swear to God, I will not take any more disrespect from you, man of shame. And it's like, I promise you, I am flipping this whole thing back to David. I'm the one who's been holding you, and you didn't know it. You don't even appreciate all my efforts. Now, I don't know, because he did not deny it. Abner didn't say, no, I'm not going to her. But he's saying, I don't like the disrespect. Maybe it was true he went into her. Maybe it was not true. We don't know. But he did not appreciate the confrontation. And Abner has this, how do they call it? A God complex. What is a God complex? People have this God complex. I feel like, you know what? I can save the day anytime I want. They're always out there to save someone. And the Abner is like, you know what? I'm done saving you. Let me go save David now. I'm going to make another king. He's like, I am the kingmaker. Now for you, you're gone. You're dead. I'm making a new king. I'm going to David. And he wakes up the next day. He begins to actually persuade. You see, this guy, Abner, was powerful. That the whole nation could listen to him. He comes like, hey guys, how do you think to go to David? And people are like, okay, let's go to David. I don't know how many of you guys watch King Julian. But in King Julian, there's these lemurs. And these lemurs, they always follow one voice. When one lemur says, let's go do this, they say, okay, let's go do that. And here Abner says, he goes to the people and says, hey, in time past you actually asked for David to be your king. Why not? Let's do it. Now, this shows that actually the people really wanted David to be their king, but they feared Abner. Because Abner was not willing to let David rule, so they say, whatever Abner you want, if you want for us to follow Ishbosheth, you will go with Ishbosheth. Because now we say, in time past you wanted this. Now, let's go for it. And that shows you how Abner was willingly not making David king, even when he knew what the people wanted. He began sending messengers on his behalf to David. He's like, hey, David, I've been thinking about this whole thing. How about we make a deal? You know, Abner is very smart. He say, hey, I wanna flip this whole thing, but I'm not gonna flip it until we have a deal. What deal? Immunity. I don't want to give you the kingdom and then you execute me for what? For treason. You've been like, you know what? You've been treasonous since day one. You're gonna die. If you want me to flip this thing to you, let's make a deal. If you watch movies about FBI is all about making deals. You could be a criminal, but if you have some good information about other criminals, they say, you know what? You've gone to jail for 20 years. We'll give you 5. Snitch on the rest. And then if you are smart enough, you take that deal. But then sometimes the other gang members end up killing you for snitching. But also, Abner's like, you know what? let's make a deal. I want some security here. And David says, sure, I'll give you security. I will not do a thing to you. But David says, but before we make a deal, I also want to make a deal with you. You see, they are all dealers. David says, the first deal we have to deal, before I give you a deal, bring back my wife Michal. Now, you see that he's like, but David, you already have 6 of them. Why do you go for this extra one? Again, this is a power play. How? When David gets Michal back in his corner, he's also saying, I am the rightful ruler of what? Of the house of Saul. I am the king's what? Son-in-law. So I should be the one to lead the country. All power moves he's making. I don't think he loves her that much anymore. But if you can, you see now David is used to being king. Now he's using people as pawns on the chessboard. It's like, you know what? I can play this game here. I can put you here so that I can get this. And the Ishbosheth then he sent to Ishbosheth, like, give me my wife. So he took her. But I mean, you feel bad for this guy called Paltiel. He says that, verses 16, then her husband went along with her to Bahurim, weeping behind her. Poor man. I think this guy really loved the girl so much. I pity both the girl and the guy. Because you see, David doesn't like this girl that much. But she's just going to be there because you say, I earned you. You are mine. Because as here in Buganda, in other places, when a man goes and pays dowry for a woman, even when he does not love her, he can't stand that woman going to another man and say, she's mine, I paid for her. Bring her. And then he makes her be there even when he doesn't like her. So this is something that's like, I paid for her, she's mine, so better bring her. And this guy goes out crying behind her. Poor man. Maybe he thought the more I cry, they will feel pity on me. But look, he's crying before Abner. Abner has no feelings at all. Abner said, go, return, go back. Stop crying behind us. The poor guy goes back home crying. I'm sure his life didn't remain the same. And they take Michal to David. And David sits with Abner. They make a new deal. Say, hey, me and Benjamin and the rest of Israel, we're going to be your subjects now. And David says, that's good. And they say, they eat well. They do a feast, a party. Now, this is the last point I'm ending with. And listen to this. Because you, the voters, you put so much feelings into politics. You put so much feelings into the people you want to put in office. And these men that you are fighting for, they don't have the same feelings you have. Okay? In politics, they say, there's no permanent enemy. Once this guy could be an enemy, but tomorrow it's going to be in your interest. Now, once Abner was an enemy to the side of who? David. But now they're drinking coffee together. Don't go there now in this time of elections and campaign and putting your head out there to be shot by the cop. Because at the end of the day, whether it's Bobby Wine or President Museveni, you never know. They may be sitting somewhere and talk. I'm not saying it's true, but you never know. They may be sitting somewhere and talk. But for you, you put so much feeling into this thing and say, hey, Bobby Wine, oh man, no change, whatever. And then you go, you get hit, you die. These men, they go talk. They have tea together. Look, Abner is seated with David. David, and David has made a feast for Abner. And Abner, for 7 years, has been stalling David's reign. For 7 years has been refusing David to be king. But now they are talking, now they are eating together. And this is not going to sit well with the supporters of David, because they put so much feeling into it. They say, this is the last thing. You read it with me, and it's for your sake and my sake. They say, verses 22 say, at that moment the servants of David and Joab came from a raid and brought much spoil with them. But Abner was not with David in Hebron, for he had sent him away and he had gone in peace. When Joab and all the troops that were with him had come, they told Joab, saying, Abner, the son of Ner, came to the king, and he sent him away, and he has gone in peace. Then Joab came to the king and said, what have you done? Look, Abner came to you. Why is it that you have sent him away, and he is already gone? It's like, Joab was like, unbelievable. You've had dinner with our enemy, and you've let him go free? The guy should have died. But David is a politician now. It's like, hey, the guy now is of interest to me. I find him more useful to me. I can't kill him. When these politicians, their interests align, you mean nothing to them. So go easy. Go slow. Don't lose your family over politicians. Go vote. Yes, you can be there to protect the vote, but don't just go into riots. I have one of my relatives, he got killed, shot in the head because of politics, and now he's dead. Much that there's so much we can learn in your word. And I pray that, Lord, you help us to be good stewards of your word, that we will not transgress it. Help us to see the signs of letting go. Like Abner, at least finally has seen the signs that he had to let go. And he did. Lord, we may struggle with things in our lives, but Lord, as it was so with Abner that finally he was able to let go, I pray that you also help us to master the courage to let go of those things that we've been holding on too tight. We thank you, Jesus. In your name we prayed. Amen.